Okay, let's go back at it. So we've got all this white space that we've revealed by taking up our masking fluid, and it kind of gets washed into the distance. So I'm going to mix up some of that light gray again. I'll just pull some of that dark out and put it in my light gray space or wherever it was. And again, don't want to make it too dark. That was real easy to make it too dark last time. So I'll just pull it up the hill, add some more water. You're not seeing this, but that's okay, because hopefully you can imagine what I'm describing. So I'm going to go in, and I'm actually going to go on either side of, make sure I'm not putting my hand in wet paint. That actually is what I did. That's too bad. Well, I think I can get away with putting a piece of dry paper down, putting my hand on that. And let's see what that does. So anytime I see like this little bit here, I'm going to put gray on either side of it just to kind of accentuate it. And I do want to bring it to a point if it's possible. So here's another one, and that one didn't go far enough up, so I'm going to add it to that. And I'm putting some gray on either side of these just to make them stand out. So what do I do up here? I guess I can do that. So it's a puzzle to solve. And I'll look at the photo, and it looks like these kind of come down from up here. And I also noticed that there's a lot of, with his feathers, these made a lot of V shapes. Well, that's what the feathers might do if they kind of come to a point or come to an end, or they overlap each other. So, and if I made a white spot, which I did, I'll split it if it seems appropriate. That's too much. So what happens if you get too much? You grab some paper and you kind of blot it up a little bit so it doesn't take off, get away from us. And we'll come back and do more on the outside first. I gotta stay focused. And also, from my reference, I can kind of tell that it's kind of light in the top a lot more, so I'm going to bring these down here especially. I can still see some more white that I can accentuate on either side, because it does bring them out, makes them pop. That sounds like a different description, doesn't it? And okay, and then so where does this go? I think our bird, as we look at it across the bottom, let me slip that in. I see this area is kind of darkish, and it kind of comes down, and it's down here. There's almost no feathers into the wood, but there may be a little bit. It kind of just disappears back in there, and you can see there's almost a darker area down there. The photo shows a lot more brown than the original. It's just because of how this was printed. So we're going to still keep it a little gray. You can make yours match. I'm not going to worry about that. So back into my light gray, and I'll continue to add some of this texture up over here, because we haven't done this side yet. Okay, so you get the idea. I'd like you to finish that, at least for all of the feathers or the white that we left, and then we'll add some more on the outside. We'll fix this, and we'll do that in a moment. You continue, and we'll catch up. Well, that didn't take me too long. I trust it didn't take you. We'll continue on these other areas. Now, on the video, it really does look like this is bright white, and this is, but this is not. I didn't paint in these lines. They're still white, as white as they were. Maybe it's just that on the camera, these lines happen to show a little bit more. Oh, that dissolved that paint, so I had too much. So we'll just bring some of these. Let me look at the reference photo. We'll bring some of these feathers down. We want to keep the white. We don't fill it in. We just accentuate it. and divide it up to give it more texture. There, that's as good as that gets. Okay, so add a little to the outside here. We've got some pointy feathers that stick out, so we'll kind of do that too with this lighter gray. We'll create those, and so we'll kind of continue this fuzzy edge all the way around. And but they start to go downward. We'll give him some. I think I'm making him too big. There. That's a little better. And that comes in right down to the foot, which is probably right down here. And we'll go back and take care of that as well in a little bit. So I'm going to continue this idea of adding little feathered patterns down here with this darker gray, and then we'll go back to the head. And I think we did this bottom edge, and we'll do more here when we do black. But now we have some of these. And you know, these don't translate well. I don't think I did a good job with my masking up here. I think they were too wide, and they're going to be absorbed by the black. And that's fine. But what I can do, I do have some lines here I can accentuate. Okay. Again, I'm trying to look at the reference and fill in. I think I'll make my gray a little darker, and let's take a look at the eye, see what we can do there. Okay, so the plan is that his eye is actually more forward. So I'm going to fill that in before I try to fix or create what is in the back. So I'm making his eye round in the front. Now remember, this eye is it's kind of as smooth as glass, kind of, but it's black. Okay, and then I'm going to pull this gray around and fill in right there. And I can see a line, and that was intentional. And then I'll just kind of close off where that reflection is. And I think I'll lift my reflection up by skirting the bottom. And now my circle's not round anymore. That's unfortunate. But my eye should be. So I'll do the strokes to make it. And we'll come back in with some black and make this more, make it stand out more. Okay. Okay. We'll continue on adding pattern and texture. And this part here, I still have some feathers coming in, but it does look like it needs to be closed up a little bit. So those feathers, I think I made them too long coming into this black area. So now that I'm filling them in a little bit, I can make them a little shorter. That's the easy part. And I can still make them wispy by just making lines or outlining them, which I guess is our intention. And on this bottom edge as well, I know we've been across here once before, but let's see if we can split these. These open spaces. And this, we don't want to go into the feathers too much because this edge is pretty well defined. Now we're getting out to where his outside feathers are. We're going to make them kind of meet up. Okay, that's a little more solid, so I'm going to put it on the inside. We're going to have to go back and work with his beak a little bit too. So once I've started across this with this same gray, but I had a little bit more on my brush than I expected, I'm just going to continue that all the way across, so it's all together. And I'll try to reinforce some of these other lines. It's okay to leave some of the gray. That's the reason we put it in there, is the combination of each of the strokes, each of the layers contributes to the illusion of, in this case, feathers. So as I put these over the top of the other ones that are there, it will continue to look darker. Add a little. I just don't want this edge to creep down. Otherwise, this black's going to go all the way down to his belly, and that's not going to be the case. So I'm taking my time, and you'll notice that there's a kind of a black patch there. I'm kind of not worried about that. At least I'm not going to do it now. I'm more interested in this wing over here. And you know what? I think I'll add this in. This gray might be just a little. That's okay. That's working. So which way does his feathers go? And his feathers are pretty smooth. Some of them do stick out. Now what we're doing now when we put this gray here, this is actually going to be the outside edge. We're not going to come back and do anything more with this. We may add some more in the bottom. And as it goes down, I think you may recognize that the photo there's a little bit lost in how the photo is rendered as far as the outside edge. In other words, it got cut off. And there's his little foot as it goes in. I'm going to define that it goes in right there. And I am going to pay attention to the picture this time because I don't want him to look like he's deformed. And we'll bring it down to this side. So I think we did it. I think we've done a good job. And it's kind of a darker area here. We'll just again kind of make these feathery patterns if I can do it. And that might be too dark. Okay. And I'll go up the sides there. And from my reference photo, I think there's a dark patch in here that I'll do, and we'll just add some of this. Just continue to add. I'll give you an example of so I'm putting these not on the white, although I could cross over and get those from time to time, but we're just adding in this dark patch. Does look a little bit darker than I might want. Can I smooth it out a little? That did a little. Okay, so I'll add a little more texture here of his feathers. He is a white bird, so we don't want to make him a gray bird. So this will soften it a little. There. And we'll just add texture as we go. So I'll stop it here and let you add some around it. Same thing. You can see the pattern from where we are here. This doesn't need a lot more. It does need a lighter gray in here, not this dark. Okay. And then there's another area right in here in his cheek. I will do now with you, and then I'll let you go off and fill in. So it looks like, how much paint do I have? Oh, too much. That's better. So it looks like it kind of comes right out of here. I'm not sure exactly where these feathers come in and go out, but I see them doing this. I know why. It's because his head's turned. But he has some wispy stuff that's kind of going down here. which is fine. Let's see if we can. Now I can add a few lines into that, leaving the white lines. Again, that's one of our goals. And then he's got some real texture into here. Some of these feathers actually stick out. We talked about that. That's where, well, there's his wing. So we'll add that. Trying to be consistent with the direction that his feathers go. All right. And not worry about copying him exactly. But I will push some of these back up with some gray. And more so on the sides. All right. And the bottom. Oh, let's paint in his feet since we're here. So it looks like this leg, as it comes down, and this is going to be black eventually, which is okay. We'll paint it in now, and then we'll have its the pattern that we'll need. So this comes down, and then it just gets wider right at the knuckle. Drops in. Now, it looks gray now, but we'll darken it up. So I'm pushing paint. So there's one foot. Let's make sure it goes all the way to the end. We don't want his toenails to look like they're white. Then we'll do the other side. Too much paint. There we go. So that foot does have a shadow that goes right down here on this bottom edge. And the rest of his foot is just gray. So I suppose when we come back and do this foot, we will leave the gray that's there and not add any more black. I think I just gave him a fat foot. And his foot kind of comes out. I'm going to try to pick up some of that. That will let me do it again. And I am spending a lot of time looking at that reference photo, mostly because I don't know this subject and I want to be as close as I can. I also know that I don't want to leave any white lines unless I can see them as a highlight. Then I might leave them. Okay. Okay, so that will work for his feet. And then beside his feet, again, we're back to the light gray. So we're pretty well got it as dark as we need to down here. I've lightened my brush, so I'm back into the light gray. That was Jasper. And we'll fill in with these patterns down here. Just kind of pull. I don't want to touch his feet because I'll be pulling dark paint off if I do. All right. So I'm kind of making V patterns, mostly in the bottom, because that's where his feathers are shadowed the most. put some faint feathers in here. So just go texture it, and the brush strokes that you've been using that work. Yay! Continue those. That's too dark. Touch the paper towel. Now I have to blend these in. So he's got some long stroked feathers over here, and in these, the ends of feathers that are in this area. And then there's that white spot. And it's not completely white, it's just happens to be an area that's wider. So these strokes I'm doing now that are light gray, as they go the top of other light gray strokes, they will contribute to what those they'll add to it. They're layered, and it'll continue to make our bird a feathered bird. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't let you see the bottom. He doesn't have any white down here because it's just dark. But he can have some strains coming in. All right. I think I need to soften some edges. Oh yeah, you can skip ahead. Just do what you need to do. I'm going to add just a little more gray under his eye. I think that's what I see in the too wet. That's scary. In the picture. Bring it right up into here. Then we'll let this dry. We'll come back. We'll add. We'll finish this in here. We'll add some more black to this, and bring in a lot more black, and actually get really close to being done. We'll do our final wash on our board and on our stick, and after it dries, we'll continue.